friends get together so they can try things. Yell about antics podcast so that you can try things. Now we will stop singing so that we can all now try this.
Hello and welcome to Now Try This, the podcast where two best friends get together every week to try new things. I'm Marcus, and that beautiful man over there is Nicholas. How are you doing?
Beautiful. I am beautiful. Thank you so much for noticing. I feel like we are just two middle-aged women about to go eat brunch and talk about sex. That's right. Today's episode is Sex in the City. Marcus,
I'm angry at you.
but before that, let's explain what the show is. We get together, we challenge each other. This was my week's challenge. I challenged Marcus to watch one of my favorite things, something that I loved. Last week, we did a fan challenge. No. Yes, we did. We did a fan challenge. We did Chucky. Go check that out. Fear God of Death. Thank you so much for your suggestion. We are right now in a three-way tie on our Patreon for what we're doing next month. So we need all of you to rush over to patreon.com/nowtrythiscast and give us your opinion. And if you missed the boat, don't worry. Next month, we're doing it again. That's right. $5 gets you to submit something, and just $1 means you can vote on what we do at the first Thursday of every month.
Hell yes. And Nick, you know, for those listening out there wondering what we do with the money, honestly, we haven't made enough money to recoup the cost of doing the podcast. But here are some things we could do. Sometimes on an episode, we buy a haunted doll.
Yes.
Like on the last episode. That's exactly what we did. And Nick, I have right here with me the haunted doll.
Oh my God, you have it?
Yeah, I haven't opened it yet.
Goodness.
I haven't
I'd like to think that some fans come in and out depending on what their favorite things are, because I assume the people who wanted to listen to Chucky aren't coming for our Sex in the City episode. But I'd like to think there's diehard triers that try everything every single week, and they are wanting, like me, to experience this haunted doll.
Mm-hmm. I'm slowly getting my coworkers into the show. Like I have several coworkers of mine now who are like, "Oh, I listened to the episode."
That's dangerous.
I'm like, "Good, keep listening, good."
Is there anything you'd like to say to them right now?
Yeah, join the Patreon. When you join the Patreon, you get your shout out. Until then, you get no shout outs.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Guys, if you want to do things like shout out or anything like that on the Patreon, let us know. We're more than willing to change up our Patreon, do what you would like us to do, grow it. We just need you guys to come on over.
Yeah, come on over, baby. Are you ready? You want the doll now? Is it doll time? Okay.
Yes, I want the doll. Show me the doll.
Here, the doll. Wait.
Oh, you haven't opened it?
I haven't opened it at all. I just opened the box.
Oh my goodness.
And I saw it was doll.
Has your house felt heavier at all since
I'm not gonna lie,
receiving this doll?
There's something spooky going on in the house.
Really?
I mean, look, our apartment got listed on Zillow without us knowing. And so that's kind of fucked up, right?
Oh,
It might be the haunted doll's fault.
She wants out.
So now we keep having real estate agents come to our house and our apartment and being like, "Hey, I'm here to show the apartment." And we're like, "No, you're not. Wrong apartment. It's the one downstairs." And so, it's been a whole thing. Maybe that's the haunted doll.
Oh my goodness. Well, remind us, what is the haunted doll's name and story, Marcus?
The haunted doll's name, Arlene.
Arlene.
I only remembered it because I sang the Jolene song to Arlene. That's the only reason I remember. Okay, Arlene, yes. So when you open the package, the first thing you see is White Witch Hunt.
Oh, that's the vendor?
Yeah, the vendor is White Witch Hunt Trish. So I'm assuming she hunts witches. It says vintage, antiques, paranormal, or just a little different. And it comes with a picture of who I'm assuming White Witch Hunt is, with a stuffed raven on her hand. It's very creepy.
Oh my God. That looks like the kind of picture you send someone to slide into their DMs.
Yeah, maybe she's just trying to have sex with everyone who buys a haunted doll.
All right, Marcus.
Hold on. And a handwritten note.
Oh, okay. Read the note. What does it say?
The vial on her is rosemary to ward off evil.
She sent you this doll.
Yeah.
And because it is evil, she tied rosemary to it before she sent it to you.
I didn't even pay extra for it.
Wow.
What a good buyer. Guys,
rosemary.
If you want it, here's a shout out to White Witch Hunt. If you want to go buy some haunted merch, White Witch Hunt.
Goodness.
Okay,
Marcus, I gotta see the doll.
Open.
Okay.
And open one rubber band, opening the other rubber band.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Oh,
taking off the bubble wrap.
It's like in this weird.
Oh my God, she wrapped it in like a veil. She's coming to marry you, Marcus.
Okay, should I take off the rosemary? Yeah, let's unwrap this bad boy.
Yeah, let all the evil out, Marcus. Guys, if Marcus does die from this doll, I do need a new co-host. So submit your submissions to the Patreon.
Oh my God.
Oh, she's cute.
She looks like she would have Sex in the City. Oh my God, her eyes are demonic. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't believe in all the superstitious stuff, but like I'm a little spooked out.
She has character. Oh, whoa. No. Put that away from me. Put that away.
Wait, what were you about to say?
No.
It looked like you changed your mind. What happened?
I don't want anything to do with that doll. I want nothing to do with that. That is one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life. Oh my goodness. Marcus.
Yeah,
what's that hook for on your wall?
It's for Arlene.
Yes, Arlene. The realness of our show.
There you go.
Wow, full circle.
I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. So I'm gonna keep that rosemary on her.
You should leave the rosemary on her. But if something bad does happen, you do need to take off the rosemary just to see how far it'll go.
Yeah,
right?
Sounds good.
For science.
For science, I'm willing to do this thing.
Guys, if you want to be involved in more hijinks, go ahead and join the Patreon. And if you don't have any money, that is totally fine. You could still be a fan of the show. The best way to do that is to follow us on Twitch, support us at Now Try This Cast, everyone. Or if you have an iPhone, you can leave us an Apple's iTunes review, just like Branded Queen did. 5 stars. Keep producing. So you guys are all over the place. For some strange reason, I really love the formatting of your episodes. I'm a podcaster myself, and I learned a few things from y'all. Keep it up and keep podcasting. Thanks so much, Brandon. You're welcome for the great show.
You're welcome, Brandon.
You are welcome.
Good job, Brandon.
All right, Marcus, before we get to the Sex and the City, have you been trying anything new? Anything you'd like to tell fans about?
I do. I was talking to you about this a little bit before the episode. I've been playing a new game, and it's called Inscription. It is not getting any attention. It is so weird. It is like the best game I've played in a very long time.
It's the only thing I've ever heard. You're the only person I've ever heard mention it.
It is a card game, so I know it's not everyone's kind of deal, but it is so fucking fun. Be careful what you look up because there's spoilers, and it is very easily spoiled. So awesome. It's sick. It's such a great game. And I am foreshadowing, I'm giving it to Nick eventually as a challenge. So if you want to get ahead of that episode, I suggest start now. Buy the game. If you're a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh!, if you're a fan of Magic the Gathering, buy the game and play that shit.
I will say Polygon did say it is a must-play card game. So somebody else is on it. Somebody else is on that.
Yeah. Also, backseat gamer approval over here too. It is so fun to watch. My girlfriend has been watching it with me. She sits there playing with me, and she loves it. And I don't think she's normally the type of person who likes card game.
You gotta watch me play a card game. This is what you're in for. Pew pew pew.
But the story is fun too. Cards. So that's what gets you.
For those of you who don't know, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitively, so I am huge in card games, and I'm very excited to try this game.
Yep,
very very excited. Now, Marcus. Without further ado, we are doing Sex in the City. Now, I first thought I would give you the first season, and then I realized that you didn't need to watch 10 episodes to understand what the show was. I watched the first episode, and I was like, I already have it. So I made you watch the first episode, and one of my favorites, season 3, episode 12.
Yes, I need to know about, before we get into more episodes, we're already talking about Sex and the City. We're doing better than we do on most episodes of this podcast.
This is true.
But what was it like? I guess we'll talk about it later, but I want to know what it was like watching the first episode again, and then what changed your mind about it that you were like, you know what? I'm not going to make Marcus watch the whole first season.
Well, okay, so a little backstory. Sex and the City came out in 1998. It is a show that that is based off of a sex column turned into a book by Candace Bushnell. She made a book called Sex and the City. They bought the rights. They made the show.
Cool.
And she had an alter ego called Carrie Bradshaw that she talked about her sexual exploits in the city. And that's what the show's based off. Pretty simple premise. This show was one of those. So a lot of my adolescence, I didn't have cable, but my grandmother did.
Oh, did she have that legal cable?
From the ages, I don't know. from the ages of like, I guess when this came out when I was 8 until probably when I was 11 or 12, I spent every weekend with my grandmother. Now, at the time, I assumed it was because I loved her so much. She loved having me. In hindsight, I understand that my mother was a single parent and she didn't want me on the weekends. But nonetheless,
same.
Nonetheless, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. Loved it. But at night, she was asleep. And at night, I had the place to myself. And at night, when you stayed up past a certain time, in adolescence, it felt like 2:00. It was probably like 11.
Skinamax, right?
Well, yeah. Sex in the City and Real Sex came on HBO.
Yes.
I would stay up late to watch these shows. Real Sex, I probably only watched maybe 6 or 7 episodes. And that's just a show. It's a documentary, hour show. They go, like, I remember one episode where there were these artists that used their penis to make different shapes.
I watched that episode, yes.
There was another episode where you follow these people who used to pretend to be horses. It was a whole show.
That episode. I think I've watched every episode of that show.
At least the same ones as me. There was a whole leather episode. Anyway, There was also Sex in the City. Now, at first, when I watched Sex in the City, it was for the sex. There's a lot of nudity. There's a lot of sex. I was a kid. I was growing up. I was like, oh.
But then you started watching it for the city.
But then eventually... Yes, eventually I started watching it for the city. Eventually I was captivated by these people, but I caught it so sporadically that I never knew the whole conceit of the show. Then they started premiering the show on TBS or something.
It was on CW, or it was like on regular TV for a while.
And I got a couple random episodes then, but again, at that time I didn't have cable and my grandmother had passed, so she didn't have cable. So again, I saw random episodes. So then in college, and I remember it's when I had that apartment by myself on Cleveland Avenue.
Yeah, very cold apartment.
I remember sitting in that bed that had no frame that I got from a hotel. I remember illegally downloading all of Sex in the City, and that must have been my junior year of college, watching the entire thing and being obsessed with Samantha, Charlotte, Miranda.
I knew you
Carrie.
when you were doing that?
Yeah, we were best friends at the time.
Best friends. You didn't say anything to me. I guess you must have.
I had nothing. I probably did, Marcus. I probably did.
I probably just ignored it.
And this show, for me, is another one of those shows where I just feel like I related to some of it more so than I did other shows. Same way that I felt like I related to like Gilmore Girls. And I think it had to do with growing up with my mother, my grandmother, and my sister. Now, we didn't talk about sex growing up, but everything, all the plights that they had as I was growing up, I was specifically like aware of as they were happening. My mother had a long string of male suitors my entire life. And I watched her date, and I watched a whole string of guys coming and going. Same for my sister. And I knew that there was something about this show, about this friendship between these women that resonated with me. Even though I was not in the city, even though I was not having sex, even though I was not having I have almost no relation. I think it's the same. But growing up, I was the kid who read Cosmo unironically. I've had subscriptions to that magazine throughout my life because reading about things from that vantage point, from that point of view, is something that sometimes I relate to more than the male gazy stuff. So I love this show. I loved following these characters, and I watched it a little out of sync with like the rest of the world. But I can tell you, in '98, when the show came out, it was revolutionary.
I agree. I agree.
You remember, right?
Yeah, I totally
Everyone
remember.
was talking about it.
Everyone was talking about it. It's like you're talking about sex on TV for the first time. It's just like a new thing. It's also from the perspective of women. It's not it's not perfect in the way that it's sort of portraying it, but it is more sex positive than anything we had seen before that, really.
Yeah, a show led with 4 females, and that was the whole show about their friendship and about their relation to sex and men.
Yeah.
Unseen. Great. Completely. It made household name out of the show and all these stars.
Yeah, and there's a realness to it that's like, okay, we're going to really talk about what men are like. And honesty that isn't usually in media.
Totally. So I know that every time I mention this show, you kind of chagrin, like, oh my God, Nick's talking about Sex and the City again. But 100%. Have you ever seen, heard, like, what besides just hearing the inklings of the world experiencing sex for the first time? What's your relationship to the show?
I was watching the first episode and I was like, I've seen this before. I've watched this whole ass first episode before. I could not tell you why. I feel like maybe you made me watch it.
No. You probably watched it as a kid.
But I watched the whole first episode and I remember it. And I was like, you're right. It might have been on one of those TV shows or like on like TBS or something, because I don't remember it having nudity. I was like, I remember this, but I don't remember nudity in this.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably ended up watching a random episode on that show. But yeah, no, it is an interesting show. I knew nothing about it. I knew you were a fan. And I mean, we've been doing this podcast on and off for like 3 years. You've been like threatening me with this show for a long time. And I don't even think it's over. I feel like I'm going to get the movie at some point later.
I didn't even think of that. Well, you're not going to get the movie, but there's a reboot coming.
Yeah.
Not a reboot. More of the show.
Mm-hmm.
They are getting back together and making a 10-part miniseries on HBO right now that's going to come out next month, which is kind of why I wanted you to watch it. Because if it's good, I'm going to want you to watch that.
That's fair. And I'm willing to do it. So
honestly, I gave it to you because I was just so sure about our place of the podcast because you're doing so well right now. I was like, he's not going to leave. I can give it to him. I can safely give it to him. He's not going nowhere.
But that's all I knew about the show. I just knew that it was a sex positive show starring these 4 women. That's it. They were going around having sex.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what the show is. That's why I watched the first episode. I was like, oh, I don't need to make us watch the whole first season, because the whole first season is the show's a little formulaic, not to a fault. I think it's a strength of the show. The strength of the show is these 4 girls keep getting together for lunch and brunch and whatever, talking about their experiences, and it cuts to their lives living out those experiences. That's the whole show. For the most part, until like you saw in a later episode, things happen in the show. People get married, things happen, but it still is this viewpoint of an A storyline, because all 4 girls kind of going about
it feels like, from the 2 episodes that I've watched, it feels like Friends. It feels like a sitcom. Yeah. It feels very formulaic, like you said, but with titties. I don't. Yeah, maybe they show
little bit of the prestige of HBO. Like there's a little bit of like prestigeness to it.
Bit, yes, but it does. A little bit. It does feel like that stuff in the writing. I would say that it feels very like early 2000 sitcom.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I think it's definitely close to that. So, yeah, like if I had made you watch the first 10 episodes, you would have liked them. Well, if you had liked the first episode, you would have liked them just as much. They do take away some of the things that aren't great in the pilot. Yeah. So maybe that's why it would have been a good reason to make it. But it would have been more hijinks. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I wanted you to take away from the show was like the feel of the show, the friendships, and like so we could talk about like who these people are and what they do. So which is why I give you a later episode. That's why I was like, you don't have to watch the whole
I'm glad you did, because the later episode had Agent Coulson in it, which was pretty cool. And it had Kyle MacLachlan from Twin Peaks. I was so excited.
I very specifically wanted you to watch a Kyle MacLachlan episode so you can never look at him the same ever
I love him. No, I love him all the time. I will look at him and be like, I love him. This man can do no wrong.
Oh, I just assume now every time you look at him, you're going to think about his little non-working penis.
No, you know what? He's impotent, but they have pills for that. And my boy, Kyle MacLachlan, fucks. Like, no matter what role he's in, he fucks. That's it.
Can I be honest?
Even if his dick
doesn't work,
does
it in this show.
He fucks.
He does it in this show. I think it's because of the era. They don't deal with like medication.
That was weird.
That's not the route.
Because
now if it happened today,
we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about everything. Why not? Why not just talk about
whatever? Yeah,
so in this episode, in the second episode you had me watch, Charlotte is gonna marry Kyle MacLachlan's character.
Don't ask, don't tell.
And she's like, oh, we haven't. She reveals they've never had sex, and that she was waiting until marriage.
Which is cute. What do you think about that?
Not permanently waiting to marriage, just for him waiting till marriage. I think that's the dumbest thing you could ever do. I think that is a very, very bad idea. I think sexual compatibility and chemistry is very important in a relationship. It's not the most important thing, but it is up there.
Well, all the girls agree with you, right?
Yeah.
As they're talking and she reveals that she hasn't done it with Trey, they're all like, you're not going to test drive the car before you buy it?
I agree. You gotta see what it's like. And you honestly, you have to do it a few times. You gotta do it a few times before you decide. Because it's different sometimes.
I agree. And I think it's funny. I don't think I agree with you, but I will say that if I was to go through life and then I met a Charlotte and she was like, we both had a lot of sex with people and I wanted to wait till marriage, I don't think the romantic in me would be like, okay. And it would probably be the worst choice.
I believe
it would be the worst choice. My life would be ruined.
100%.
But I would be like, okay.
I just feel like there is a lot of bad sex to be had out there. And that if you don't know what you're going into, especially before marriage, like that's crazy. You know, like you can get better at sex over time for sure. But it's just one of those things that sometimes there's just a compatibility thing, you know, like she experiences in this episode.
Yeah. And so the episode keeps going and she gets drunk on our bachelorette party in a very innocent way. She's very cute about it. She's like, I'm drunk. And it's like, I'm done waiting. Her friends got to her a little bit. And she's like, I
you're
want
right.
this now.
Let's have
and
sex.
She goes, she surprises Trey and it cuts to immediately them laying in bed with her having a face like, I don't understand what just happened. And Trey has a face like, here we go again.
Yep. He's like,
like
yes.
only Kyle MacLachlan can give.
He's like, yes, I can't get it up. I am sorry.
And she's like, that's okay. Does this happen a lot? He's like, yeah, from time to time.
It's definitely something that like should have been talked about. And I like that the show did that. I'm gonna give the show props because I'm also gonna talk shit about the show. But
there's so much things to talk shit about.
100%. But I do want to give it props because that the idea of like the importance of these conversations is really good. And that's not something you see on TV all the time. Like I know that we are a lot more sex positive overall, but these conversations aren't normally happening organically all the time. You know,
I mean, even looking back, this thing still isn't quite happening on like TV or in normal circumstances. It's not quite all the way that it should be.
Yeah.
You know?
On TV, as popular as Sex and the City was, it's definitely, I feel like it's not happening. I feel like there's a lot of good shows about sex and about youth and stuff like that that I think are out there.
It's happening.
It's happening now. Yeah. But
my favorite part about it though is as they're laying there and he's trying to explain what happened and she's trying to understand. And he's like, yeah. And of course, just doesn't do it for me all that much. But that's why I love you. Sex isn't that important to you either. Which means she never said out loud, sex is important to me, but I want to wait to show it's special. She just didn't have sex with him. And he assumed he was like, great, it wasn't cool, important.
Awesome. Let's go. I don't like sex either.
She's perfect for me.
Yep. It sucks. And then like it keeps coming up. She tells her friends about it in confidence and her friend kind of lies to her. It's like, oh yeah, you know, maybe it's just a one-time thing.
Well, no. Hold on. You are downplaying that scene. She doesn't tell her friends. She tells her friend.
She tells one
friend.
At
the wedding. At the wedding. Right when the three of the bridesmaids go and right when Carrie is about to go, Charlotte's like, shh, come here. And everyone's like, why isn't the fourth person walking? And she explains what happened.
Yes.
And in that moment, the voiceover of Carrie comes on and she said, and this is the moment when you lie to your friend. And she said, it's going to totally be okay.
Yeah, that sucks. But
and she gets married.
It's one of those things where in that moment, they're like, oh, it's totally going to be okay. And then later on, she talks to her again after their honeymoon. And she's like, yes, like sex didn't happen. Was that the next episode? It just kind of auto-played.
Did you watch the next episode?
No, it just kind of auto-played and I didn't want to get up. So I think I watched some of the next episode. But she comes back from her honeymoon in the next episode and she talks to her about it. And she's like, it still didn't happen. We still didn't have sex. He couldn't get up. So we ended up playing golf instead. And it's like at any of those points, you could have said, hey, why not try Viagra? Or why not try one of the medicines out there for erectile dysfunction?
It's right before the time that they hit hard on like TV infomercials.
Yeah, all those old people commercials. Come on, real sex, and then you get an old Viagra commercial. Like that's right.
Well, now you know that ED is like, I forget the statistics, but it's like 30%, 40%. It's like a very common thing, and it's no big deal. But back then, it was like you're old. You're not a man.
Yeah,
you're like
that's true.
Not good enough if you can't get it up. Marcus, hold on, but I can't get over this fact of you watched more Sex in the City than you had to.
I did. I also watched. I also watched the second episode.
You watched more than I did,
which I will talk about because that episode's fucked up and problematic.
I love it. Let's go back. Let's work our way back to the very beginning of the show, though, because I think it's really interesting because the pilot, it's really interesting. Sarah Jessica Parker filmed this and she hated it. She didn't like it. She offered HBO 3 free movies to make so they wouldn't release it. But then she talked with the showrunner.
Yeah.
They worked it out and they said, have faith. And then she said she also had a lot to do with changing it up. So in the first episode, everybody talks to camera the whole time. Eventually, if you notice in the third season, the only one, nobody's talking to camera and it's only Carrie's voiceover. The show went through its growing pains to get where it is. And I'm sure you can tell how much cleaner and tighter and better written.
That episode
and
is
like more of a
much better episode than the pilot.
Of just television. Yeah, the pilot's not great. But I think the pilot does succeed at getting across what the show's gonna be about, and that's New York City and sex.
That is all the first episode did, because I feel like the first episode is kind of problematic in some ways, and
so much.
It just was. It was like we are women. It's like they had a pilot, but not even like a script, and they're like just improv the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's like we are women. We're going to have sex, and we live in the city. And you're like, yep, that's the title. Okay, cool. Oh, cool.
It's very funny. Yeah,
great.
Even in their first conversation, when you meet our four main characters and they're talking, and it's Miranda's birthday party, they're talking very like trying to be Sorkin-y, but they're not there yet. You know, I think they get good with their banter, but the banter's not there at the very beginning. But the premise of the conversation is Samantha describes and says, listen, I think that I want to have sex like a man. And everyone takes that note and goes and tries to have sex like a man.
Yeah, which is just, I feel like now we've gotten better about that sort of like phrasing and terminology and how problematic that sort of mentality could be.
Yeah, because that's still like a backwards anti-feminism, right? Because it's like, no, don't have sex like a man, have sex like yourself and do what you want.
Yes,
it's like it's still the premise still asserts their fact as being man is superior. Let's be like men.
Yes, 100%. That's exactly right. It is feminism through the eyes of men and through the superiority of men. And you're like, okay, I guess that is one way of looking at it.
But the thing is, I think the show, the reason why I think it still stands up, and you've watched more, so you can tell me if I'm wrong. I think the reason is, whilst it has all these problematic things, and the show does not do good in the trans community, does not do good in the gay community, it messes up all over the place. It is a very white show. It messes up all over the place. But when it comes to some things, like this statement of having sex like a man, at least the show, even in this episode, is trying to wrestle with that fact in and of itself, right? So like in this episode, Carrie thinks, Samantha might be onto something. And she goes, has sex like a man, as I air quote, with this random guy.
Samantha?
And then, no, Carrie does with her like old fling. And then when the old fling was like, wow, you had sex like a man. That's great. Let's keep doing that. She was like, wow, I don't want this at all. So at least it's trying to like grapple with some of these fallacies in some kind of way.
But even then,
like it knows that some
through like, oh yes, she couldn't handle it because she's a woman still. You know what I mean? Like it takes a man to handle just having sex with a random person. And it's like almost like she had to not like it in order to not be vilified. Right? Because in the same episode, Samantha goes up to Mr. Big and is like flirting with him and trying to sleep with him. And he's like, no, I don't want you because you're too like loose, basically. And then he's like, I must go with Carrie. And she's sort of like the skis ball that Miranda, what's the other guy? Miranda?
Charlotte?
No, the one with the short hair. Is like
Cynthia Nixon, Miranda,
or Charlotte. Someone is Charlotte. Charlotte's on a date with this art guy. He's like, come to my house, I'm gonna show you art.
Yes.
And then he's like a skis ball. He's like, hey, look, no disrespect, but I need to get laid tonight and you didn't do it. So I'm going to go back to the bar. So
it was so fucking, it was so ridiculous because they had a great date.
Yeah.
She went up for a drink, looked at his art. He started kissing her and it seemed like it was perfect. And Charlotte's whole conceit in this episode is like, Samantha's wrong. I'm going to do it like I want to do it. And then the show, and then he calls her a cab. It's very sweet. And then there's just this moment where he goes like, scoot over. And he gets in the car and he says an address and she's like, the nightclub. And he's like, oh yeah. And she's like, why do you have to go to the nightclub? And he's like, listen, you're great, but I'm really horny. I gotta have sex tonight. And that's like the end of the conversation. Yeah.
And then he goes and he has sex with Samantha, who was just rejected by Mr. Big. And then like she sleeps with the skis ball. And it's just like something about that message and that transaction still puts Samantha in a negative light for just sleeping with someone. And it puts the ones who were sort of like more hesitant about it in a better light. And they're the heroes of the episode, which I don't think was good.
Agreed. I agreed. I think the purview of this show doesn't always age well, but I think it's still interesting to watch now. I don't think it's one of those shows that you like is unwatchable, right? There are shows that are so problematic and so bad that you can't even watch them. There are.
That first episode isn't that bad. It is bad, but I think that it is.
Well, you'll have to remind me what the second one is if it's that bad.
The second episode is egregious.
Oh, please go through it.
Okay, we'll go back to the first episode maybe if there's more stuff, but I'll talk about the second episode a little bit.
I don't think that. I mean, there is, but not really.
The second episode, Nick, is it. It starts off, and Carrie is talking to her friend about art. And he's like, yes, I'm an artist in the city. She's like, oh, he's one of these people who just managed to like have an apartment and succeed in life while being an artist. And no one really knows what he does, but he scrapes by. And he's like, but I have something to show you, my real art project. And he takes her to another room full of TVs. And he puts on sex tapes that he's recorded. And she asks, hey, do these women know they were recorded? And he says, no, probably not. Which is fucked up. And they just sit there watching this as if it isn't a violation at all. And Carrie's like, oh, it's getting hot in here. And it's like, what the fuck? That's disgusting. Also, what kind of asshole guy shows up and he's just like, hey, let's watch my fucking sex tapes? You don't do that.
Marcus, it's funny. I feel like this show is definitely shocking. Do you think it could shock you more?
I'm assuming.
Well, we're gonna find out. We're on the clip.
Now try this trivia. Now try this trivia. Now trivia. Now trivia. Now trivia.
And we're back. Oh my God, that's not Nick. Hello.
No. Hi.
How are you doing? I haven't talked to you in a minute.
I know. How are you?
Are you playing game show host, or is Nick coming back with like a secret outfit?
Nope, I'm here just for you.
Nice.
Are you ready?
I like how your hair matches Nick's lights.
Thank you. I also like that he's so tall that I cannot be in the frame.
I didn't realize
that's all good.
the height difference between you guys. It's comedic.
You say that every time you see us, though. Okay. So, are you ready for the game?
I am so ready for the game.
Okay. It's called Spoilers, Sex in the City Edition.
Oh, God. I knew this game was coming.
I know you should have. So, apparently you guys played this for Gilmore Girls and Grey's Anatomy.
We did.
We're going to play it for this. So, I'm going to tell you different scenarios, and you're going to tell me whether or not you think they're real or they're fake.
Okay. Got it.
All right. So the first one goes, Samantha actually has a real boyfriend for a long stretch at the show's end. This boyfriend eventually goes on to be a movie star, but his reputation changes, and he can't book any more gigs because everyone thinks he's gay. And Nick wants me to tell you that it was the 2000s, so, we know that's problematic. So to change the audience's perception of him, Samantha helps him make a sex tape that he, of course, co-stars in, or that she co-stars in.
That sounds so real because of the times where that was like the big sex tape leak, right? Like we had Paris Hilton's sex tape, we had Pamela Anderson's sex tape, we had other sex tapes, I'm sure.
Yeah, you're right. It is real.
Yeah.
Also, I've now binged 3 seasons of this since you guys started watching this.
Wait, what? It's only been like a week.
I had a lot of time this weekend. But now that you've reminded me that she goes after the model in episode 2, I'm like, wow, she does a lot of sex tapes in this show.
She does a lot of sex tapes. Well, in the second episode, shout out to Daron in the chat. In the second episode, he apparently doesn't record her because he only records models.
Yeah, but then she convinces him to.
Does she really?
Yeah, she does. And she's like, no, but like, don't you want to watch this with me? And he's like, yeah, okay. And then they do.
Wow, that's fucked up.
She has multiple sex tapes.
I can't believe you watched this whole thing.
I've watched it. I was nostalgic for it. Okay, next one.
Okay.
Charlotte spends a lot of the show looking for her husband, and halfway through the show, she thinks she's done it. And with a chef, no less. Turns out, right before the wedding day, she finds out he has not 1 secret family, not 2, but 3 secret families. He explains this away by stating he just wants familial ties in each city he opens a restaurant in. Real or fake?
That's hilarious. I'm going to say fake because that sounds funny. And I do trust that the show is funny, but I don't know about that for Charlotte. I feel bad for her if she keeps getting married or finding husbands who suck. So I'm going to say it's fake because I hope it's not real.
It's fake.
Yeah.
It's fake. She just gets the ED husband.
That's a problem
That's
with
okay.
Nick. He's a better writer than people of
The show?
Sex and the City. Yeah.
This show was revolutionary when it came out talking about sex, but one moment was so culturally relevant that it stunned the nation. After Charlotte canceled plans with her friends to have a night alone with her rabbit, sales for the toy skyrocketed.
I believe that. That sounds right. Also, I feel like people of the time were very like sexually repressed. So it would make sense for the show to be like, oh my God, you could do that? Like when 50 Shades of Grey came out and everyone's like, oh my God, you could do that? And yes. I'm going to say it's true.
This is real.
Yeah.
Also, Nick didn't remember anything about this. I told him this and I was like, I remember this so much. And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. True fact.
It's on Brett.
Okay. As we all know, sometimes a baby's umbilical cord takes a little time to fall off. Miranda eventually becomes pregnant on the show and experiences this joy. Unfortunately, being completely unprepared for this to happen, she's even more taken aback when the cat takes the umbilical cord to eat it. Real or fake?
Which one's Miranda?
The short hair.
Okay, Miranda. She gets pregnant on the show. Why does she get pregnant on the show? I'm going to say that's fake.
Okay, why?
Because it sounds like a plausible scenario, but I don't know if Miranda would get pregnant on the show.
It's real. She does.
Wow. She does?
Yeah.
Does it end well?
Yeah. And I will say he's my favorite of all the men.
Who is he played by?
You're asking the wrong person. That's a Nick question. I have no idea. He cheats on her
in the movie.
I didn't watch the movie. I only watched the series.
You need to watch the movies, apparently.
Ironically, when I was also a junior in college.
Wow.
Interesting. Okay. Carrie, the star of our show, has many relationships on the show, but none live in more infamy than when she dates the real-life Matthew McConaughey on the show, played by none other than Matthew McConaughey. It wouldn't last long, mostly due to scheduling, so they fake unceremoniously write out this character by saying he's not good at sex.
I feel like that's fake, but I'm going to go with real because Daron just told me they were in a movie together and it was like a Matthew McConaughey vehicle. So maybe, hopefully he was like, you know what? I'll do you solid and I'll be in your show. So I'm going to say real.
It is very fake.
Yeah, it's fake.
I will say though, a lot of men get written off just by like, they were bad at sex and then they never show up again.
I mean, honestly, if you got to pick a reason to not date a man again, bad at sex is a good one. It's a very valid one.
Mm-hmm. Samantha has a lot of sex on the show, a lot. And of course, all that fun time results in an unideal circumstance. Samantha, quote unquote, loses her orgasm. Despite desperate to find exactly where it is, she recruits the help of a wrestling coach from NYU. And she is so intent on getting it back that they try 1,001 positions. She does eventually get it back, thank God.
That sounds funny, so I'm going to say it's true.
It is true.
Yeah.
It's a very good episode. Highly
Nice.
recommend. We should have given you that one. Miranda, being a lawyer on the show, doesn't actually do that much lawyering that we see on screen anyways.
That makes sense.
In fact, the only time we ever see her in a courtroom is when she's defending Donald Trump from a defamation case. This obviously does not age well.
They did mention Donald Trump in the first episode. I'm gonna say that this is fake.
It is fake.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is in a lot of episodes though.
Yes.
I'd say like 3 or 4.
I believe that. But
He's
I feel like
somewhere in the background.
this show is very New York City. It is painfully New York City. And so I feel like having Donald Trump in the show, they wouldn't want to ruin their reputation with that like New York City aesthetic by having him be in court having to defend himself.
Yeah, I agree. Carrie dates many men on the show, and one for a solid half season is a fellow writer. Although the writing might have been on the wall, when it was obvious Carrie's writing was on the way up and his was on the way down, no one can really explain what happens next. Out of nowhere, he breaks up with her on a Post-it. That's right, a Post-it. And it reads, "I'm sorry, I can't. Don't hate me."
I'm going to say fake.
This is real.
Wow.
And it's like, I think it was like the early,
Office Space.
the guy from Office Space.
Which guy? The main character?
The main character? Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
cool.
I feel like this was also like a 2000s meme before there were like memes. Like
Yeah.
that picture of that Post-it was everywhere.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. 2 more.
2 more.
I hope someone kept track. I didn't keep track of your
So
points.
if I win the game,
I think you got 2 wrong.
okay, Lexi, hear me out. If I win
Okay,
the
I'm
game,
listening. Mhm.
I get to mail you the haunted doll.
I don't want the haunted doll.
If I That
Because
sounds
then
like
Nick
you
will
want
make
the
me
game.
keep it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to keep it.
What's the other option?
The other option is I don't know. I'll think about it.
Okay, you have two more rounds to think about it.
Okay.
Carrie once ate out at a fancy place with a date. When they went back to her apartment to have a nightcap, she hadn't realized the dessert had tree nuts. Lucky for her, she didn't show any symptoms before they went to bed. Unlucky for her, when her date woke up to a full, high-faced Carrie. He went screaming out of the place saying he had slept with a monster. Real or fake?
That sounds real because it sounds kind of like shitty in the way that the show would be shitty. Like, oh no, you're a human being. Oh, gross. So I'm going to say it's real.
It is fake.
Nice.
It is fake. And when I read it, I asked Nick, I was like, oh, did you just imagine that happened to me one time? He was like, no, I don't know where that idea came from, but not true.
Not
I
even
was a little
based in real
offended.
life.
Not even based in real life. Okay, last one.
Okay.
Charlotte, who is no longer married to Trey, meets a Jewish man named Harry. Although seeming to be polar opposites, they fall in love. The only problem is he will only marry a Jewish woman. Even though it's unsure whether or not they'll even get married, Charlotte goes all out and becomes Jewish in the hopes they will live happily ever after. Spoiler alert, they do.
That sounds like... Wait, they do?
That was the end of what Nick wrote. But you have to tell me if it's real.
I'm
going to
say true. It's true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it totally tracks for Charlotte.
Yeah. It does track for Charlotte. She does seem like that type. I am sad it doesn't work out with Kyle MacLachlan.
Why doesn't it work out with Trey? I haven't made it that far yet.
Because he can't get it up.
I know he can't get it up, but doesn't like more contribute to it?
I think he can't deal with the fact that he can't get it up and he leaves. And she's like, fuck, I was trying to work on this.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay.
A dick and a small manhood.
Trademark that.
Well, thank you, Lexi. Is that all the questions?
You're very welcome.
Yay! Thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate
Share
it.
my thoughts on the show.
Yeah, share your thoughts on the show.
What are your thoughts of the show? You watch more than I have.
I really like this show for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I also watched it as a junior when I also wasn't having a lot of sex. And I remember thinking, when I moved back to the city, is this what my life is going to be like? And then I moved back to the city and my life was nothing like that. And then when I think the reason I started binge watching it again, because I was like, watching this as an adult is completely different to me.
It's really different.
So I was like, these are the conversations I have with my friends at brunch. Like, this is what we talk about.
Yeah.
Just in a way more, less problematic way.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun to watch now.
Sure. It's interesting because I feel like now, I guess now that I am an adult who has dated people, it's like something like this is so much more relatable. You see these conversations happening. Like, I know that a lot of women just spend a lot of time complaining about having to go on dates and the men that they date. And it sucks ass. And it's very hard. And there isn't a lot of media out there that's portraying how difficult it is to date. And especially in the city, which is just like a whole nother ballgame.
Whole other ball game. Yeah, one of my favorite episodes that I tried to convince Nick to give to you as an add-on, and he was like, no, I can't give him anymore. Actually, Miranda throws a fit one day at brunch because all they do is talk about men and sex. And she's like, we're cultured women. We all have careers. We're intelligent. Like, can we talk about absolutely anything else? And they just go dead silent. And the show is just silent for 2 minutes. And then Charlotte starts complaining again, and Miranda walks off and leaves brunch. And I turned to Nick and I was like, this has happened to me and my friends. Like, someone has lost their mind and been like, can we stop talking about this? And we're like, no, this is the only fun thing to talk about right now.
I get that.
But, we're not you guys.
Well, I appreciate that.
D&D and many things.
Yeah, we kind of just talk about that. And it's like, let's talk about real life for a second. And then it's like, ooh, no. Let's go back to Dungeons and Dragons, please. It's similar. It's different. This is what the virgins talk about.
Not anymore. Alrighty. Well,
okay.
I'm going to give this back to Nick.
Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your input.
You're welcome. Bye.
We are waiting for Nick to come back. We are waiting for Nick to come back. Hey, there you are.
Oh my goodness.
Woo!
I am back.
You're back.
Marcus, how'd you do?
I did pretty good. I think I got 2 or 3 wrong.
I didn't hear, so let's do it again from the top.
No!
Samantha actually
Oh my
has
God.
a real boyfriend.
True.
Thank you so much for Lexi for jumping in. I
That's
thought
good.
maybe a different perspective for just a second would be
I
nice.
liked it. That's a good idea. Nick, Yeah, the episode 2 is problematic. Back to the show. Episode 2 is problematic as fuck.
Yeah.
It was hard to watch. They started talking about men as like from the men who only date models and how easy it is for them to date models because
I feel like that was a big trope for a while, right? Like that.
I guess so. I don't know. I was like, I don't know anybody who's only dates models.
I don't know anyone personally, but it was like it could be a real life thing. I feel like I don't know. I watched a lot of Sex and the City. Maybe I only think so because of the show, but I think I feel like I remember at least the meme of like some guys only date supermodels. I feel like that's a thing.
I don't think that's a thing necessarily anymore. But at the time, I'm sure
I'll tell you
maybe
what,
it was.
I worked near Wall Street.
Uh-huh.
It might be true, Marcus. A lot of those guys might be true.
Maybe. Nick, outside of the show, you are a person who has had sex and lived in the city.
Uh-oh. Yes.
Is there any I'm not going to get you into trouble. Is there anything that's sort of like relatable about the show that you've been like in 2020, whatever year that you find is like, you know what? That kind of holds up. That's still true today.
Honestly, Marcus, I feel like you're gonna have a way more interesting answer than I am gonna have to this question because the answer is no. I feel like actually, if you take listen, I will say very openly, I have dated a good chunk in the city, and most of it has not ended in sex. The circumstance for some of the dating does feel like this sometimes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this, like everyone is living their whole entire own lives, and everyone's so busy, and it feels like you're trying to like catch someone as they're like running that way, and you're running this way, and it's
That's
like
fair.
hard to like find commonality and common ground. And it almost feels like while it's not speed dating like Miranda does in that second episode we watched, sometimes it feels like speed dating where it's like, especially with the apps nowadays, where you have to
get in there and you have to impress.
Get in there.
It is like speed dating in that sense, 100%. And there's such a high,
but not on just them. I don't want to put the impetus on women or any significant others. It's also on me. I feel like show me something because it's like there's so many people.
Oh yeah,
like,
for
I feel
sure.
like
too.
I feel like it goes both ways. Totally.
But also, it's just like there is a lot of pressure on everyone to kind of be the funniest, most impressive person. And then I imagine it's gotten even worse now that like social media is so prevalent. You can just see everyone's like fuck ups and be like, oh no, like, am I one of those guys? You
go straight to their LinkedIn and see how much they make.
Yeah. But you know what you got to do?
What's that?
Take that information and learn from it. If you see that everyone's complaining about you men holding fish, fucking take down the picture. Hold something else.
This is true.
Grow and adapt. And that's what you have to do as men to keep dating in the world.
I took down all my tiger pictures, and that's how I snagged Lexi.
Hell yeah. What tiger pictures?
Well, what about you? Do you find it's I mean, here's the thing. I am a transplant to New York City. I still don't consider myself a New Yorker by any means, but I've been in and around the city a long time where I consider it home, at least.
Yeah.
It's the most home I've ever felt anyway. This is your home. You have been here your entire life. You did grow up in the city in the 90s and in the 2000s into your adulthood. What do you think about the prevalence of how the real world is, how the real city is, and how this show portrays it?
I think for me, if the portrayal of the city is very real, like it feels like that old New York, like that, that older generation New York City, where it's like you see the upper crust and it's like, oh, those are the in people. Those are the people that you have to get in with to like be a part of society. And it's just so strange to me that you still see that today. And it's just like this old school kind of like old New York. Like there's a lot of New York that's new and hip and cool and like a bar that's also a laundromat, like some shit like that. You're like, fuck yeah, only in New York. But then you have so much like old crusty New Yorkers. Did you see that?
Oh my God. What happened? Did you hit it?
No, the doll moved. I didn't hit it.
It didn't even move like down. It moved like at a degree. Oh no, Marcus, you have to give Arlene more attention during the show.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Arlene. I'm so sorry. That was terrifying.
Marcus, you just touched it. You were cursed. Oh my goodness. Ask Arlene what she thinks of Sex and the City.
Arlene,
ask her.
What do you think of Sex in the City? She says it's great. She loves it.
Oh my goodness. Oh goodness.
No, but there's a crustiness to some of New York, especially Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like areas that it's just like it's cringy to watch because it's so true and relatable sometimes.
That's so wild.
I've met Sarah Jessica Parker in person and Matthew Broderick at my old job, and like they seem like New York City royalty. It is like they show up and they're like, "Oh yes, I'm here. Please open the doors for me. Thank you very much." And it's just like, ugh, I didn't like it. Short anecdote about Sarah Jessica Parker.
Sure.
Parker. She was at a show.
I don't have any.
She was at a show that we were doing in our theater, and the president of our company came because obviously you come when there's celebrities coming to see stuff. And they were talking together, and on Sarah Jessica Parker's way out and Matthew Broderick's way out, the president of my company said, "Good luck with the divorce." Like she shouted, "Good luck with the divorce" down the hallway and waved happily. And I was freaking the fuck out because I was like, how do you say that? These are famous people. You can't just say stuff like that.
They're also real people. What an awful thing to say to a real person. If she was actually was she going to divorce at the time?
No, she wasn't. There was a show called The Divorce that she was working on. I found that out later. But I was so my face turned red. I was standing there staring at this couple being like, "Oh no, they're getting divorced. And I know this information and I should know this." And I got really stressed out.
And you went on the Reddit threads like, "Guys, I have to share this with them. Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew Broderick are getting divorced."
But it was fun. It was fun.
That's wild. I feel like this persona of the Manhattanite of Sarah Jessica Parker wearing like a weird outfit and a small purse with a cigarette in her hand hailing a cab is so iconic.
Yeah.
Like I feel like anytime anyone wants to invoke New York City, they invoke those images. And I never knew if they came from the show, if they were real, but it sounds like that's kind of like how the city was.
Yeah, it seems, as someone who grew up in New York City, it seems very true to New York City. A lot of shows pretend they're from the city and actually be like in Toronto or something like that. You know what I mean? Or not capture the essence of what New York City is. And I feel like the show does that. It's white New York City that it's capturing. And I do want to fucking emphasize that. It is white New York City it is capturing. But
I will say,
capturing New York City.
Miranda dates one black man near the end of the show.
Wow.
No, I
clap it up for progress.
It's a huge problem. Apparently, behind the scenes, Sarah Jessica Parker and the main cast actually talked a lot about it. About like we need more diversity in the show. So it wasn't like acutely unaware. I feel like the awareness of it though is the same awareness that girls had at the same time, where they try to course correct and but at the end of the day, they're white people making the show, so they're telling white people stories. At the end of the day, that's why it's so important for everyone to be able to have the chance to tell their own stories
and be represented. Yeah,
no,
for sure.
But also just to put Lexi on blast real quick, I asked her if this was what New York City was like and I was like, are there really like fucking restaurants where everyone lays in a bed while you're eating and it's like this exclusive like week-long thing and only like the sex columnists and the people who can get it in go? And she's like, yeah, that really happened. There was a nightclub called Beds. I went with my friends in high school.
Oh
and I was
my God.
What? Beds is real? So like this show, it does all these ridiculous takes that I always kind of thought were like preposterous to be real New York City. And then I was like, it's real.
It is real.
It's all real.
And
it opened my eyes of like, everything in the show is real.
I kind of, it does feel very true. I don't like the talking heads of the men and their input. And I like that they took that
goes
out.
away. That goes away. Yeah.
Because it was like, I didn't like their gross. And I know it was supposed to be gross.
They were so gross.
But it just felt extra and I didn't need that.
It was so gross. It was so gross. And then to juxtapose it to try to make Mr. Big like the only like nice guy.
Oh God, I hate that too. Yeah.
But even though he's like supposed to be like a pseudo Donald Trump, he's supposed to be like a GQ editor or something. Yeah. He's based off of some like GQ editor or something.
So dumb.
Lexi said in the chat they used to film the show near her high school and they used her school gym for hair and makeup.
Oh, that's cool.
But said they never let them meet them. Yeah, and Mr. Big, I want to know your opinion about Mr. Big, about Chris Noth. All you know is these first 2 episodes, and then you do hear him referenced in the next episode I made you watch. What's your impressions of Mr. Big?
I think just the comparison to Donald Trump and knowing what we know about Donald Trump now, I feel like he's gross and I don't like him and I'm scared of him and I'm worried about his influence on the show. But I'm hoping that it's like he is a nice person and that we get to see that at some point. But he slept with her and she was in a relationship. And I don't know, she mentioned he was married. Yeah, that's fucked up.
The whole show is this will they, won't they with Mr. Big. He's the only, he shows up in the most episodes besides our 4 main stars. Mm-hmm. He is there in and out and in and out and in and out. And he's never referred to anything but Mr. Big the entire show. Until the last episode when you find out his name is John.
Jesus Christ.
Because it's from the perspective of the column, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it makes sense. It's a good conceit of the show.
Yeah.
But it's wild because sometimes he is the slimiest person in the world. And sometimes he's supposed to be like, he's got a heart of gold underneath all that thing. And the first movie is their marriage. It's their wedding.
Wow.
That's what the first marriage is.
That's pretty cool.
Full circle. It kind of is. Like, I don't know if all of it is good, but I will say that some of it, the fact that thought of people come in and out of your life, that like this really happens to some people. I mean, it hasn't happened to me, it hasn't happened to you, but like I do hear real stories about like Lexi was just telling me a story about how Ed Sheeran, who we know dated like tons of famous people and shit, like went sober, got his shit together, and went and married his high school sweetheart.
Oh, that's nice.
People find each other again later in life, and when it's time for them to finally get together at the end of the show, they do paint him as way more of a sympathetic character. Like he does a speech to Miranda, Charlotte, and Samantha while Carrie is away in Paris. And he goes to them and says, listen, I know she's in Paris. I know she's with that Russian guy. I know that. And I know I fucked up. I know I fucked up a lot, but I really love her. And you think there's any chance or any reason for me to go there? I will scour those streets and find her right now. But if she's happy, I'll leave her alone. You know, like a big romantic comedy, like good, light speech at the end. And then Miranda, even though all this shit, she says, go get our girl. And that's the whole like end of the show going.
Okay. I can see that.
So he is a turn. He takes a lot of turns.
Yeah.
But my favorite person that Carrie is with, you met, and his name is Adrian.
That's your favorite person that she dates?
She dates a lot of people, and he's my favorite.
Yeah. Does he come
back? What do you think of? Or Aiden.
Okay, Aiden. Yeah.
He pops in and out.
I think he's fine. I don't know. I saw him for an episode. He was kind of boring, and I got why she cheated on him.
Wow. That's the most awful thing you've ever said on this podcast. Oh my God.
I was like,
I get it.
That makes sense.
Mr. Big Polly, Mr. Big.
Yeah. I mean, it's Mr. Big versus this piece of shit.
When they introduce Aiden, it's that whole Carrie is obviously the quintessential New York City slickin' girl, right? She's like a mile a minute, New York City minute. And Aiden is a country guy that ends up in the city. He makes furniture for a living. He owns a dog.
No, I hate him.
He talks in whatever, like a very relatable Midwest accent. And that's like his whole thing.
He's just got cuck vibes. You know what I mean? And I feel like
Daron said he made furniture. He was cool. Well, no, I mean, he kind of is, though. He's the nice guy. That's why he's like a real nice guy. Like, there's like fake nice guys in movies and TV.
Yes.
He's actually just a genuine guy. Like, you can tell by the way he's talking in that episode to her. He's like comforting her, bringing out the best in her, not being mad at her for smoking, even though he doesn't want her to smoke, just being like nice about it. Like, that is his MO.
Yeah. But
you're right. That's probably why he gets cheated on.
But he's not being cheated on because he's a nice guy, right? Like, being nice is not a personality trait. It is just the baseline for humanity. It is the baseline for someone you should date. It is not a personality trait. And he didn't seem to have anything other than being nice, is why I'm like, I fuck that guy. I hate him.
No, he's got a dog. He makes chairs. Listen, here's the thing. This is why I like Aiden.
Yeah.
Because in this whole show, everybody sucks, Marcus. Carrie sucks. Miranda sucks. Charlotte sucks. Samantha sucks. You can go through all of their decision making and make a chart, and they would all go negative in every single one of their interactions. Everyone in the show sucks so fucking much. Aiden doesn't. He's just a nice guy. And you meet him again throughout the show, but like it's over. Like he goes and marries someone else and has a baby. And
that's like nice.
That. Yeah. But it's wild. Yeah. It's super, super wild. I think it's really interesting to watch it in the show because Carrie clearly falls in love with him. But like you said, I think she falls in love with him because he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
She doesn't fall in love with him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like she doesn't get him. She likes he's so nice and quiet, not who he is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I also feel like
Well,
a lot
he's,
of
like,
people
really-
like to date nice, quiet people because they get to shine more too. And I think Carrie's
Yeah.
a little bit like that.
Oh, Carrie is a bookcase narcissist. She is one of the if you go and look at like I remember I just read something about somebody did like a 20th anniversary like retrospective on the show. Reassessed Carrie as an unsympathetic protagonist despite the show's portrayal of her as a popular figure. Her brattiness and self-absorption eclipsed her redeeming qualities and even her awesome shoes. Like she sucks.
I agree.
Everyone
I
in the
can see that.
world sucks.
Yeah.
And even if you keep going down, it describes Miranda and Carrie were second wave feminists who believed in egalitarianism, which I don't know what that is. Charlotte and Samantha were third wave feminists focused on exploiting the power of femininity from opposing angles. Like and then The Guardian entitled the show, that show was as white as it gets. There's a lot of criticism of the show, which is super warranted. The people in the show suck.
After watching that second episode, I was like, the first episode I didn't like, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this next episode that you suggested. And that episode was pretty good. It wasn't bad. It's a Kyle MacLachlan. It was a good episode. And
it's funny.
Like,
the banter's good. The friendship's interesting.
I could see myself watching the show more.
Same like you would watch Friends, right, on TV.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But I watched the second episode of the series, and I hated that so much. And also, we have so many things now competing for our attention with TV shows and stuff like that. I mean, like, I'm sure you're in the same boat where there's so many challenges where you're like, I want to have finished that. And we didn't.
I haven't finished ReZero. I haven't finished Chucky. I haven't finished a laundry list of things that I loved on the show and give glowing recommendations to just because I'm trying to stay up to date on everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we're halfway through Michelle's season of The Bachelorette. That has to be watched, Marcus.
I didn't watch that. I'm not watching that one. Is it good?
It is good, yeah. One of these guys is a fucking sociopath. And
every season, there's a guy who's this fucking crazy guy,
and it gets me every time.
Thomas was last year, and he's doing fine with Becca.
I know, but this one's different. This guy, they caught him backstage talking to a producer about how there was no other competition there, and he was clearly the best. And that was right after he had a one-on date with Michelle, explaining how he lost his mom to suicide. It was like, why? It was like
That's
such
crazy.
a 360. Like, you're the best person in the world. You're a shit.
That's crazy.
Only in The Bachelorette.
I will say this about Chucky. A plug for Chucky is watch it because there is very good. It's very good. It's only getting better. It's only getting better.
The only reason I haven't watched it is because I really want Lexi to watch the show. I really think she'd love it.
I agree.
I really think she'd like get a really good kick out of it.
The
it's
romance
so fun.
Storyline is like picking up, and it's really good.
Oh,
it's really good.
Please, Marcus, explain to Lexi why she has to watch the show.
To Lexi and everyone else out there who hasn't watched Chucky, you don't need to know a lot about Chucky. You can go into it. I would suggest watching Cult of Chucky before going into it, but you don't have to. They do a good job of explaining everything. It's a modern story with modern problems. The gay romance in it is one of the best written romances of this year in television. It is handled so well, so maturely, and is incredibly well acted, so it's believable. And I would not in a million years believe you if you told me I was gonna get that from a fucking Chucky TV show. It is so good. It's so good.
Awesome. Now back to the show. Couple other things. I really love. I think one of the reasons the show really works is I think it really, really leans into the fact that all four of our main girls are so different, right?
Yeah.
Like describe to me like what your impressions are and what your takeaways are of our four main girls.
Samantha,
who are they?
Is the very confident one who I think maybe her confidence might be hiding some insecurities, or maybe not. I hope it's not. I hope she's just confident and badass, and then I like her.
I think she goes back and forth.
Miranda is, I don't know, a lawyer. I don't really know much about her other than she's a lawyer, and she's kind of like,
she's very what's the word?
her personality is also lawyer. I don't know. It's just like
she's just very like anal retentive, very like she's just kind of mean,
boring. She's also having sex and doing stuff, but it's boring when she does it.
Yeah.
And then you have Charlotte.
Her whole thing is she just like hates everything. She hates everything.
Yeah.
She hates everyone. She hates men. She hates women. She hates everything.
Which is kind of annoying. But like, you need to like something and be a person a little bit. And I'm assuming they flesh her character out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, enough that Cynthia Nixon ran for governor, you know?
Oh, cool. She did?
Yeah. Remember that?
No.
You don't remember that?
No.
Cynthia Nixon?
That shit.
Oh, yeah. She
That's
ran
cool.
for governor.
Is she Republican?
No, she's Democrat.
Okay, cool.
She was going from the left of the governor we just had.
Okay.
I don't want to name his name. We get demonetized.
Got it. Fair enough. So the next one is Charlotte. I like Charlotte because she wants to get married. And I understand that plight.
Aw.
Of dating to be married. And you're like, I am dating. I want fun, but I want it from this person. And I want to get married.
Yeah.
So I understand
it is most
that.
of her personality, but they pull a lot out of her. I think she's just the best because she's just so like she's so buttoned up, but not because she's a prude or because she's like unfun or anything. She chooses to button all her buttons up because she likes it that way.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I think, a really nice perspective where it's like some people want to be reserved. They're not reserved like as a flaw.
Yeah.
They just choose that because that's what they want to be.
Yeah.
You know?
She
And
seems
that's
like
nice.
the most like relatable, regular one of all of them.
Sure.
And then Carrie is a narcissist for sure, like you said. And I don't really like her. I think she's intriguing in that she is a curious character. And so in her curiosity, we are also going on a journey as the viewer.
Totally.
But other than that, I don't give a shit about her. Like, I don't care who she sleeps with. I just am not invested at all. I don't care if she finds love.
Yeah.
I hope she doesn't almost, because she seems like a shitty person. So like, why does she deserve love?
Yeah, I think it's super interesting that she's our narrative device for the whole show because her whole thing is trying to figure it out. But I think one of the reasons why the show does work is she's so deeply flawed. I think there is a little bit of awareness that she's flawed. Not enough awareness to fix it or know how to fix it or what to do about it. But I don't think she is narcissistic, but I don't think it's in a braggadocious kind of way where she's like, me, everyone and me. She does narcissistic things and they make her fall in her face, almost literally sometimes. And then she has to be like reflective of it. Now, does she always come away with those lessons? No. Does she have growth from the show? Totally.
That's good.
She totally does. From the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
She totally has growth. She's totally a different person. You know, she totally grows. She learns. But I think the reason she's the focus is because she's so flawed.
Yeah.
And that is interesting to watch, you know?
I don't want my protagonist in any media to be perfect in any way.
Yeah.
I want them to be flawed. I want them to make mistakes, but I also want them to learn from them.
Yeah, she does learn from some of them.
Good.
You know, she doesn't learn from all of them. But she does have some interesting things do happen to her throughout the show. I mean, her whole relationship with Aiden and then Berger, and then there's this Russian guy.
Yeah.
Super interesting. And I think, honestly, I bet I could do like a video essay about how each of her relationships is like a different like psychoneurotic tendency inhabited by people in their you know what I'm saying? There's such a gambit this show covers from A to Z that it would be so easy to like explain why each of her relationships is one of the 7 deadly sins or some shit.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you can there's a lot to talk
like
about.
Like Mr. Big would be pride. Fucking Burger would be Sloth.
Who the fuck's Burger?
The Post-it guy.
But I do like that it's true.
Ooh, the Russian would be Wrath. He slaps her.
It's true to, oh my God. It's true to dating in that sense that where it's like most people date a good amount of people, especially in New York City. Like I feel like maybe not in our friend group necessarily, but like you do date, you get out there, you put yourself out there and you try your best, and there's a lot of people, and so sometimes that makes it a little bit more difficult because there's constantly someone else who could take your place, or who you could go on a date with instead. Or something.
Aiden would be Envy.
Oh my God,
because he's envious of Mr. Big and he like knows something's there and he's like doesn't think he's enough of a man. Ooh, now I just gotta figure out who
cheated on. It's not his fault.
Before that, it was before that too.
Oh, okay.
He was like an envious person.
Well, obviously there was something to be envious of because he got cheated on.
I don't disagree, but I'm writing this video
right.
essay. Guys, if you want to see me write a video essay about how all of Carrie's relationships are the 7 deadly sins, give to our Patreon.
Yeah. I do hate that in shows, and I didn't watch those episodes leading up to, I just watched her talking about cheating. I do hate in shows when they're like, I don't know, they portray the person as crazy for thinking that something's going on, and then it turns out there is something going on, or something ends up happening, and it's like, oh, well, no, I feel bad for them.
To be fair, and I also hate cheating on shows. I hate cheating so much, more than almost anything, and watching it. That is kind of what it's like. I will remind you that there was that time when my girlfriend in college, when I didn't like one of her friends, and I thought he wanted to be with her. And
you're right.
And I hold on. And I was like, I don't like him. I don't know what's going on. And she assured me I was crazy. And it got to the point where she like wanted to watch a movie with him one-on-one.
I remember.
And I was like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that boyfriend, but I want to say no. I really want to say no. And she was like, you can't say no. I can do anything. Everything's fine. And I was like, I don't know. I just get a feeling. And then she's like, well, I do got to reveal to you, he did kiss me the other day. And I'm just like, you fucking kidding me? I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Spoiler alert. She's married to him.
Yep.
So I was so correct.
You were.
So correct.
But hey, the same thing happened to Carrie Bradshaw.
I'm Carrie.
You care. Wait, no.
I'm Aiden.
You're Aiden.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick. Well, you're happy. Which is good.
Live and let live.
And that's all that matters.
I think that Kyosta was honestly, in hindsight, I bet she did cheat on me. So she slept with a lot of my friends. It seemed too easy.
Also happened. Does that happen in Sex and the City?
Our mutual friends. Yeah. All our mutual friends she slept with.
Not me. That's why we have podcasts together.
And guys, Marcus did not sleep with her, and that's why he's stuck around.
Yeah. Let's go.
You don't gotta do a lot to get in my circle.
I actually wasn't Nick's best friend until that happened, and then he was like, you know what, by default you win.
Marcus, there's nobody left. It's just you. We can laugh now because it's sad. Yeah, Marcus, that's the show. I think it is a product of its time, but I think it's one of those things that you watch like a bottle
time
capsule of the time. And I think there's still a lot of merit and funny and interesting things to happen, especially once you get past those first episodes, that first season. The tone almost completely shifts to where that third season was by the time you're going. And then I honestly think the first Sex and the City movie, by the time they all get said and done, is a good time.
Yeah.
The second one sucks. The second one's awful. But the first one's really fun. I will pitch you on it.
Okay.
Basically, the beginning of the movie is their wedding. It's Carrie and Mr. Big's wedding, right? They get an apartment. Carrie finally gives up her apartment. It's like this whole montage of watching all her fashion from all the shows.
Yeah.
Fun fact, Carrie didn't repeat any outfits the entire show until one fur jacket from the first and last episode.
Oh, wow.
That's a little fun fact.
That's
for
pretty
you.
cool.
Expensive budget is what I have to say.
That is
about
expensive.
But it's their wedding, and Mr. Big gets nervous because it was supposed to be a small ceremony, but because Carrie's kind of famous because she writes the column, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then like Versace makes her dress.
Oh, wow.
And like it's in the New York Times, and it ends up being the event of the summer.
That's pretty cool.
And it's too big, and Mr. Big's freaking out. So when he rides up to the wedding, he's so freaked out. He's literally has like anxiety. He like needs to talk to her one last time to like be able to get in there.
Yeah.
But she's so busy with all the stuff, she can't pick up her phone. And then there's one moment when he's looking and he sees her coming in and he's like, just look at me. I just need you to look at me. I just need to look at me. And she's so caught up with everything, she doesn't even see him.
Wow.
So he leaves. He abandons the wedding.
Holy shit.
So then all 4 girls take Carrie's honeymoon and they go on her honeymoon. And that's the movie.
Wow, that's crazy.
Fun.
That sounds
really
fun.
It is fun.
That sounds fun.
And it was the first rated R movie where they showed a penis.
Oh, wow.
Because before that, it was NC-17. And the show in the movie was like, no, you can show a vagina. We can show a penis.
Yep.
Get off it. This is a rated R movie. We see a penis.
That's fair.
This is about
I
women,
like that.
baby.
That's pretty good.
Honestly, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Marcus, anything else you'd like to talk about the show?
I think that's it. I feel like the show is sort of like, it's problematic, but like you said, it is a time capsule. And we've had shows that are problematic in the same way that have come out a decade later, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Now. Shows come out now.
Yeah, shows coming out now. Problematic in the same exact way.
Girls is way more problematic.
Was problematic.
Girls is way more problematic, and that's a really new show.
Yeah, I feel like, it's problematic, but it is interesting to kind of look back in and be like, wow, this is what it was like at the time. And I totally respect how progressive it was at the time. I could totally see that.
Marcus, did you like the show?
Did I like the show?
Ooh.
I did not like the show.
Sure.
But I could appreciate the show. Season 3, episode 12, I think you had me watch. I could see that made me realize like, oh, this is a show. I could see myself watching this if I had to watch it and not being mad about it. And that's really all I could say.
Marcus, would you recommend the show?
I would recommend the show. I think I would. I think that if you are someone who's just curious to see what New York City was like in the 90s and early 2000s, it's fun. I think if you want to sort of like insight into what it's like to maybe date as an adult, I think there's some of that's in there that still holds up today. So yeah, I'd recommend it to some people. Not everybody.
Great.
For some people.
That's honestly, we're doing great. Marcus, are you going to continue watching the show?
Hell no. Hell no. Not going to watch the show anymore. I am done. I am retired. I did the task. I've been having anxiety about it since we started the podcast. And now it is over. And I'm done. I did it. I made it through.
Well, Marcus, unfortunately for you, the reboot is happening really soon.
God damn it.
So we'll see how
but
that works.
The reboot, I think, honestly, based on the show, I have faith that the reboot's going to be like woke and progressive and good, and like it won't have the same issues that I have with this show.
Agreed. I'm really excited for the reboot. Like I said, that the first movie when it came out, it was actually a great movie. I really liked it. The second movie was dumb. They went to India for no reason. They were not respectful of the culture, so I'm not sure why it was there.
Yep.
But the show, unfortunately, Kim Cattrall is not coming back.
I heard
Samantha
about
did
that.
not want to come.
They hated her.
Apparently they hated her and she hated them. Like apparently it wasn't all sunshine and roses and they loved each other. You know. So
yeah, interesting. Yeah, I like Samantha the best of the episodes I've watched.
Sure.
Samantha and Charlotte were my favorite ones.
Which is funny because Samantha only had like little like B storylines and everything you watch. She never watched any of her meat and potatoes.
But she was confident and intelligent, and
she's smart. They never downplay her intelligence. She's always smart. I love that. And
she like knew what she wanted in a way that I feel like maybe the show was kind of shitting on her a little bit too much. But I think that she was the most modern of the women.
I agree with that. I agree with that statement. All right, Marcus. Unfortunately, we do not know what we're doing next time because next time is Thanksgiving. We are obviously not going to record on Thanksgiving, and we will be back the 2nd of December. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/NowTryThisCast. And we are currently looking at a poll on Patreon. Something is winning at this moment. Hopefully in these 2 days it loses, so we do not have to watch
What's winning right now?
A Recipe for Seduction.
Oh, fuck yeah!
You want that to win?
I wanted to win! Let's go!
God.
I don't
There's
know
such
if I
good
voted
things
yet.
on here. Why?
Guys, go online and vote. There's a great selection of things. There's a book from the Discworld anthologies, whatever.
Let me go through this.
Go
Young
through
Justice. Young Justice, wildly amazing. Cowboy Bebop, critically acclaimed. Orphan Black, revolutionary. Return of the Living Dead 3, iconic.
Yep.
Small Gods by Terry Pratchett, universally revered.
Yep.
And then we have a Hallmark movie about Colonel Sanders.
Guys, let's get this. I want to make sure Recipe for Seduction wins. We need to solidify our victory on the Patreon. So let's fucking make sure we get on there, join the Patreon, donate $1 and vote.
Patreon.com/NowTryThisCast. Please save me. And if you guys have other thoughts on the show, you can tweet at us and get at us everywhere at NowTryThisCast. Patreon.com/NowTryThisCast for that Patreon. You can leave us 5-star reviews on iTunes. And that is all of the things.
Woohoo! Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We love you. Good night, sweet dreams, and go out there and try some things. Bye.
Good night.
Friends get together. together so they can try things. Yell about antics podcast so that you can try things. Now we will stop singing so that we can all now try this.
I'm glad Kim Cattrall's not coming back. She seems better than the show.
What is she doing?
She just seems happy. She doesn't need to be doing anything.
I mean, they're all none of them.
Sarah Jessica Parker seems like a piece of shit, and I don't know her at all, but
She might
she
be.
seems like a piece of shit.
She very well might be.